What's going on, everybody? You are on the sidelines with the Sideline guys. I'm Chris,
I'm Derrick.
and we are joined by a very special guest. I wanted to quickly give a nice introduction for our guy Matt. Please, first of all, tell him where you can find all of your stuff and the podcast you do on OTS. And I'm really excited to have you here, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like I said, thank you again for having me. I really do appreciate it. So in case you don't know me, I'm John's younger brother. We do a podcast, We Can Be Heroes, over here on OTS. I do a podcast with my best friend Peyton. That's Boom Squad, and then I do Realist co-host with Derrick, and Bianca, as well. So I'm nice and busy over here, and then you can find me over on Instagram at Matt underscore T29. If you have any inquiries about being a guest on the podcast, any ideas you want us to put forth into them. So yeah, I'm excited to be joining you guys, and yeah, I'm ready to get into it.
Yes,
Heck yeah,
sir.
man. That portfolio is as diverse as it gets. And I just gotta say real quick, I've been begging to get on Realish since the longest, man. I went to a film high school, okay? Let me in, coach. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say.
Hey, charge it to my head, not my heart. I keep forgetting about that.
Yes, sir. But we will not forget to plug ourselves as well. So, Derek, please tell everyone where they can find your work at.
Yes, sir. At Derrick underscore OTS. That's DERRICK, black way to spell it. And more so, just follow the brand at OTS Media Co. All social media platforms.
Yes, sir. And OTS Media on YouTube. Do not forget to like, subscribe. Make sure you're checking out everything we have coming towards you because we have coverage on all things sports and all things lifestyle as well at LTS. So, big things coming and really excited to continue to sharing that. You could catch me at Negron MMA on Twitter. I'm 4 away from 400 followers, making that big push. So please
Yes, sir.
send it over whenever you get that chance. And hey, you might be the 400th follower.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for all the support. And of course, you can check me out on the MMA archive and here on the Sideline guys. So with all the pleasantries out of the way, we got a jam-packed week here.
Yes, sir.
So off the top, it's only right that we get into our fantasy predictions. I made a little draft yesterday that I'm going to go over with you guys. Just get your thoughts on how I did and what my season's looking like. And then I know Matt has a big draft coming up real soon too. So we're going to talk strategy for first round, talk about in general what those top 10 picks sort of look like and
Yeah.
what to look for in fantasy. So that's all exciting stuff. So just to give you some background, this is actually the first league I've ever done that is non PPR. So it's just a standard league.
Okay.
You're not getting points per reception. Try to think about that when I was
Yeah.
considering who I was drafting and their value, I guess, because typically you're like, yeah, that guy's going to be getting the ball a lot, but that doesn't matter too much in this sort of league. This is honestly probably one of the more competitive leagues I've been in. Everyone in this league is literally covers football in some capacity. A couple of them are beat writers for two different, the Bucks as well as the Giants. So a lot of hype there. I was nervous, and the liquid courage along the way too had me shook. I'm not gonna lie. Towards
Yeah.
the end, I was getting all sweaty, started stuttering, but it was a great time, and I think I came out with a pretty dope team. I'm not gonna lie. So let's get right into it, man. I'm gonna say the bye weeks as well because I made sure to write them
Oh,
down as I was going, just so I didn't overlap on things. But with my first round pick, don't shoot me. I was ninth out of 10, so right towards the end of the wheel. I went with Christian McCaffrey first. I know a lot of people are like, no, stay away. But I thought him still being there at that position and being
mhm.
able to get his backup in a second, literally,
Yeah.
I thought it would be a good look to sort of have him. And if hey, I try to draft the rest of the team in mind, like hey, this guy will probably be down week 4, so try to get as much of a formidable team around him as possible.
Yeah.
So I got McCaffrey round 1, Najee Harris round 2,
Nice.
Kyle Pitts round 3, Josh Allen round 4. I started the QB arms race.
Yes, sir.
Round 5, I got Mike Williams. Round 6, I got Brees Hall. And I'm just not giving bye weeks at all. I'm sorry, guys. McCaffrey's 13, Najee's week 9, Kyle Pitts week 14, Josh Allen week 7, Mike Williams week 8, Brees Hall week 10, Darnell Mooney with the 7th pick. I thought that was a steal.
Yeah. That's good.
With 14 as his bye week. I got Juju round 8, who also is week 8. Dalton Schultz, formidable backup tight end at round number 9, with also the ninth week bye week. and then Rashad Bateman, 10th pick, as well as 10th week by week. Round 11, I got Trey Lance, high upside. I thought he was a steal there too as well. I mean, he was
Yeah.
ranked much higher. And then I got the Bucks defense round 12, Naeem Hines at 13, Harrison Butker, my kicker from Kansas City, and then finally rounding it all out with Van Jefferson in round 15.
Ooh. That sounds like a very. Who was anybody else drafting?
Yeah, I was gonna say like that. Like
What is going on here?
It's a
Van
10
Jefferson.
team league. It's a 10-team league. So I give him
Okay,
that.
but Van Jefferson is he not? Is he I forgot what happened to him, but isn't he hurt?
I believe so, but it's not throughout the duration of the season. So I figured
Okay, you
I'd
got a
have a
good
little
backup.
stash. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, low risk. I
Hmm.
like it.
yeah, I,
I
I'm
like it.
kind of like astonished when you said Darner. When you said you had Darner Mooney and Juju Smith-Schuster,
Hmm.
and Trey Lance available at those particular spots, I was shocked.
Yeah,
Those are huge steals.
those
Um,
that's a good team. I ain't gonna
Yeah,
front.
I'm excited
yeah,
about it. I'm a little nervous though, because like as I was drafting, I was like, this looks like a fucking dynasty team. Like, like
Yeah.
I'm like getting all
yeah,
young players. But I think everyone should be pretty productive. I'm really looking at Brees Hall. I feel like if Brees Hall cooks the way everyone's sort of saying he will,
Yeah,
I think I got a real good shot to win this league for sure. So looking forward to
oh
it.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's good. Is this is on which platform?
NFL.com.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Did they give you a draft grade?
I have not checked. I got to look
Okay,
into that
okay.
because all the picks were inputted by the commissioner. So I
Oh, gotcha.
didn't even put the team in. So,
Okay.
but I'll definitely check on that. But yeah, that was the team. I'm really looking forward to week one, dude. It's crazy. I have a couple different drafts happening in the next 2 days,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah, yeah.
realizing slowly. I'm like, the mix of dynasty and PPR leagues and standard, like it's hard to keep track of. Like you
It
gotta
is.
you gotta really have a focused intent when dealing with sort of keeper leagues versus just these one-off one-year leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to shift my mindset as we move forward. But with all that being said, Matt, could you please run us through sort of what your situation is for your draft coming up, and we'll try to doctor it as best as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me preface this by saying, I have never done fantasy before, so this is my first experience going in. My brother Angel was kind enough to allow me to co-own a team with him, just so I don't necessarily have to pay the consequences of losing the league itself. So going in, I was obviously very nervous. I understood the concept of PPR. I understood how players are valued, obviously, how you have to consider their production is going to be much different than it was in the season prior. So basic common sense stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so our thoughts going into it was, we're looking to draft the running back first, go wide receiver, because we'll be the 10th pick. So um, chances are this video will be published after we do our draft tomorrow, but I was gonna say outright that our plan is to draft Barkley round one, which is risky. And so it's what Chris was saying with Christian McCaffrey. There's a chance he'll be out by week 4, from some accidental injury of some kind. But if you sort of look at his interviews recently, and I know a lot of experts who have been at the Giants training camp has said he's looked much better recently. I do see him going back to his 2019 form again, but that is dependent on him making sure that, or really the Giants making sure that they give him,
Yeah.
the right plays to where he isn't going to injure himself. Um, because it's risky. I mean, you draft someone with that kind of history, but I feel confident. We feel confident enough that it'll be the right decision in the end.
So let me ask you something. Why not go with like Najee Harris with the first pick and then go wide receiver second?
Well, we're taking that into account
Mm-hmm.
because, truth be told, we have no idea what everyone else is planning. I mean,
Yeah, what's your order for running back though? Like, because if Saquon is not there, which he like all likelihood he will be, but if he, and is this is a 10-team league?
yeah, it's a 10 team, 10 team.
Okay,
So we're the
so
last pick.
okay, so if he's not there, What's your second?
So like, what's our fallback? Like our so it's difficult because we're just waiting for someone to make like the one mistake,
Yeah.
and we're gonna capitalize on it. So we're willing to forego not getting a running back if that means getting two great receivers back to back.
Okay. That
You
was
understand what I mean?
that's
So that's sort of what our plan is currently, right? So
okay.
in the event that Barkley isn't available, so for whatever reason drafts him number one overall, that's fine because chances are they literally gave up an opportunity to get a quote unquote better player, right? Or in their eyes, a player that has better upside, you know, just by not having injuries or just not being on the Giants in general.
Yeah.
So respectfully. So that's sort of where our mindset is getting into it. And I think Chris was alluding into it before too. It's very difficult to know what people are thinking, right? And one move that seems idiotic from our end turns out to be some brilliant decision that wins in the league. You know, that's the scary part because we really don't know what to expect. So that's sort of, you know, we're just gonna be improvising on the fly and keeping a list of every single NFL player around just so we're keeping track of, you know, who's available, what kind of skills are come our pick, things like that. So it's
Awesome.
nerve-wracking though.
And I just want to say, yeah, this is the first time drafting. So just to give you an idea of sort of some of the trends, I think every year I notice this where it really everyone starts off with the RBs typically. Like the first five picks are generally the best five running backs available. And I'm gonna once I'm done with this little diatribe, I'm gonna give the top 20 just so that we have an idea of where everybody falls. But I would say the best sort of strategy in draft in general, especially with the 10th pick, is like you could have a strategy, but it really doesn't matter. Like once it starts, like you're ready to let go of it all because generally the trends are big in fantasy. So if someone jumps, like I noticed this yesterday, for example, I was the first person at round 4. I was all the way at the ninth pick, so I knew it was going to be a while till it got back to me, and the odds of Josh Allen still being around when I got my next pick were slim to none. So I figured I'll be the first person to draft the quarterback. I'm getting on top of it, and literally in the next round, 6 QBs went. So once that arms race starts, you kind of want to be ahead of it as best as possible. And I think the best way to tell or anticipate if that QB race will happen quicker or not is if you're in a 1 or 2 QB league. So are you in is it a super flex league where you have 2 QBs or is it just a 1 QB league?
Yeah, so we're actually in a 2 QB league. I can give you the breakdown real quick.
That's big. That's big.
For context. My fault if I can just I have to pull it up real quick.
You're good. While you do that, I'm just going to give the top 20 draft board, just so you could get an idea. But I think in QB leagues, it's much different because obviously a lot of those stats tend to weigh heavy on having a good QB. So, like this top 20 doesn't even have a QB listed. But in your league, I think it's very possible that by the time you pick either one of the big QBs gets picked by the time, and that gives you honestly more room to get a good RB and potentially get a good QB round 1 since you have the wheel. So here's the top 20 as listed on Roto. So it's Jonathan Taylor at 1, Cooper Kupp at 2, which I think is a little surprising. Justin Jefferson at 3, Austin Eckler at 4, Christian McCaffrey at 5, Dalvin Cook at 6, Derrick Henry at 7. I disagree with all of this. Derrick Henry should be above McCaffrey for sure.
For sure.
Jamar Chase at 8, Joe Mixon at 9, Stephon Diggs at 10, Alvin Kamara at 11, Travis Kelsey at 12, Saquon Barkley at 13, Najee Harris at 14. Flip that 100%. I think Najee should probably be towards the 11th pick, if anything. Aaron Jones at 15, CD Lamb at 16. I think that's a little bit of a reach, but Dakota got to get the ball to somebody, so I don't know. Devontae Adams at 17, DeAndre Swift at 18, which I actually like. Playoff Lenny at 19, and then Javonte Williams, who I'm just gonna say this right now: if you're at your third pick, so you already did your wheel, it comes back and Javonte Williams is still available, you pick him up like immediately. That's another guy who's getting a lot of buzz at that RB spot that's a little slept on. That I think you could get some good value for if he's still there come round 3. But please, whenever you're ready, let us know what the specifics of your league is.
Yeah, so for the looks of it, it's gonna be You have just as I described, it's going to be two QBs, two wide receivers, two running backs, a tight end, a wide receiver and tight end flex, a super flex, and then kickers defense. So that should
Ooh,
be
So that's a 3 QB league.
God, I've never
yeah,
played that league before.
yeah,
That
yeah,
sounds lit. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds lit.
Yeah, yeah,
So 100% there's gonna be a QB arm race early.
yeah,
So you might
yeah,
be able. I would,
yeah. Your
if I were
strategy is
you,
different.
given that you have the wheel, I would probably go for the best available RB and then the best available QB,
Yeah,
yeah.
and just see where things fall when you get the pick again.
yeah,
Yeah, because I think somebody like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, etc., like they're going to be taking out almost
easy,
For sure.
easy,
right
easy.
out of
And
the gate.
and if
So,
you're lucky enough that nobody does, like you be that first person. Like
oh,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
I mean, like I said, we're looking just for that one mistake to happen,
Hmm.
and we're capitalizing on it right away. And even getting
Yeah.
someone like Jalen Hurts or Trey Lance, someone who has that dual, that dual threat capability. I mean,
Hmm.
that helps you big time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we're keeping an eye out on everything,
Yeah.
everything.
My draft this week, um, my strategy was similar to yours, Chris, because my picks were always kind of like far out. I had the second overall pick.
mm,
So my strategy was kind of just like looking to see what's the best value I can get. So my strategy kind of like, and I don't like saying this, but I'll tell you on here, like my strategy kind of like fluctuates year to year because you don't know. Like sometimes, like God, even saying like you can wait on a QB. Like a few years back, that was like that really wasn't the biggest thing. There was people that were getting QBs like around round 2 or 3, depending on how many people you have in your league. Um, and now you don't see it. You don't see QBs go to like 4 or 5. Mine, I actually, I'll just give you a couple of my top 5 picks. My first pick was Cooper Cup. Second was DeAndre Swift. Third was Justin Herbert. Fourth was Juju. Fifth was Darren Waller. So
that's solid. Yeah.
yeah, so I had to go wide receiver, running back, QB, wide receiver, tight end, and then come back around. Then I picked up Chase Edmonds for my backup, for my second RB. And then, yeah, I mean, and I had to get defense early. I got Buffalo at 7 with the seventh pick. I mean, seventh
Nice.
round. So yeah, it's kind of like it's weird because your strategy is always different depending on your position, the league that you're playing in, and like what your goals, especially if you're not in a dynasty league. Like, do you guys trade picks? I love trading picks.
If I'm in a dynasty league, I tend to try to stay away from it,
Yeah,
unless I could fleece somebody. Like I've
yeah,
seen a couple times where people send me trade requests, and I'm like, okay, you want to
yeah,
move up a couple spots in this round, but you're gonna give me 2 picks later on. Like I'll
yeah,
take it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
for the most part, I try to like I don't make offers. Like if people are coming to me with offers, I'll entertain them.
yeah.
But I know that you said, Matt, that someone was offering you the second pick. I'm curious if this is a
Oh
yearly
yeah.
league, how can you even go about trading picks? Like how does that work?
Um, I refuse. Stand my um, yeah, no, but in all seriousness, though, I think like I never like at least in terms of fantasy, I never understood why someone would. I understand if like you're right down the middle, right,
Mhm.
and then maybe you kind of want to sway at one end of the spectrum or the other, but in the case of being the 10th pick, I mean, you get back-to-back picks, and yeah, it may take a
Mhm.
little while before it comes back into fruition again. But I mean, the odds of every single person choosing that top tier player,
Mhm.
that's not,
Someone's going to be left.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Like, regardless, there are going to be players left out anyways.
Oh, for
So
sure.
why, so why sacrifice, not getting those back-to-back picks, when you're just going to be stuck right behind number one anyways.
So
You
you
know,
prefer the back to back. You
Oh, I
want to stay
prefer
at 10.
being one or the other.
Okay,
Truth
yeah,
be
okay.
told,
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah,
that I mean that's just me. I mean, again, it varies so
yeah.
often. I mean, I think like I said, I'm getting like a bit more used to fantasy despite this being my
Mhm.
first time and looking into it
Mhm.
more. But like,
Mhm.
it's so different, and you really cannot account for what people are going to do.
Yeah. You
Like I,
you know when I
it's
love to
tough.
actually trade picks though is
Mhm.
when my favorite time of the season to do it is if I already know I'm out. Like I know if I know by like week 7 or 8, like if I have some guys that are injured and it's just the record is just not looking good, I'm automatically going on a sale. Like
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to next year already because it's like I had that happen to me like 2 or 3 years ago where I was just like, nah, it's not it ain't
It's not
happening this
working
year.
out.
It ain't happening this year.
Got a
Yeah, yeah.
tank.
Got to tank. Go ahead and tank. And so I went ahead and took the Jets strategy and went for it. Just tanked it and some people see it depends on your commissioner too, right? Like there's some leagues where the draft, if you trade the pick, like it will save the information for the next year. But sometimes, depending on how the league is set up, it sometimes doesn't save. So you have to keep track of it. The league that I was in, I had to keep track of it. So the very next year, I'm like, yo, yeah, like you need a draft. This is my pick right here, bro. Like we not we
Don't
not
forget.
we not playing that right there. I make sure the commissioner knew and everything. Like I needed my pick. So that's one of the things that if your season is almost done early, draft trade those trade get a pick. Trade your best asset to get a pick because
Hell yeah.
the next season is it'll set you up for success, Especially when you see people who are like on the cusp of winning the championship that year. Those are my favorite people to pick out
Mhm.
if I'm not in the race. This year I'm not trading, bro. Like I messed myself up last year by being sweet talked. I had Devontae Adams and Cooper Cup.
In a dynasty league?
No
Oh,
PPR.
okay. PPR, yep.
Yeah, I had them, and I got sweet talked because I think I had Travis Kelsey. I got sweet talked into trading Cooper Cup for Patrick Mahomes, and then I think I flipped Devontae for someone else.
I
To
remember this
I
actually. We
was
talked about
so
this live
hurt,
when it
bro.
happened
Yeah, I was
because it
so
seemed like
hurt.
a good trade, but yeah,
It
you got
did.
finessed.
Yeah, I got fleeced, bro. Like that mess that yeah. So this year I'm kind of like sitting back. I've already got right after we did that draft, I already got 2 offers.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I'm like, nah, I'm not from the same guy that fleeced me last year. No,
No, sir.
no,
No, sir. Not me. Not
no.
again.
They know something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Matt, I don't think we clarified. Is that a dynasty league or is that a just a one season league? Like a standard PPR?
I think it's a standard PPR.
Okay,
Um,
perfect. So there's no need to think sort of moving forward. For me with Dynasty, that's the biggest one. Like I never even
Mm,
heard of them allowing people to trade in standard leagues. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
That's probably why you had to keep keep track of it.
yeah, yeah,
Uh
yeah,
yeah,
but
it's complicated.
for
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
for sure. My main advice though versus sort of Dynasty versus just standard one-off leagues is like your strategy is going to change no matter what based on your pick.
Oh
So
yeah.
like don't fall in love with whatever's gonna like whatever plan you had. Just
Hmm.
always be considering value and what is the most important thing and just staying ahead of those trends. Like
For
the
sure.
last thing you want is to be even with like even towards the end of the draft, like you don't want to
Hmm.
be the last person to realize that oh shit, it's time to get a defense. Like
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
by the time everyone is already like once that clock gets set off and someone
Hmm.
does that first one,
Hmm.
it's safe to assume in the next 6 or 7 picks, 3 more defenses are going to go too. So it's
Yes,
like
yes.
always trying to stay ahead of those curves. In my case, in that draft that I did yesterday, my first 3 picks, I shorted up. I didn't even get a receiver yet. I just got 2 running backs and a tight end that I think
Mm,
has really good upside. But from there, immediately nobody has picked a QB yet, and all the big name wide receivers are off the board. So
yeah.
I already in my mind, I'm like, I don't have room to get somebody like Keenan Allen or something like that.
Hmm.
So let me just crack the seal, be the first person to get a quarterback, and then have the what I think is the best value quarterback for this season, and then move on and let the chaos ensue from there. Because now, so think about it theoretically like this: I could have picked the best available wide receiver with the fourth pick.
Mhm.
Probably wouldn't have gotten Josh Allen, but once I cracked that seal, now
Mhm.
everyone has their mind on the QB spot. So I could probably still end up with the same best ranked wide receiver left,
Oh yeah.
even though I waited for the next pick to come around. So
Yeah.
if you could stay ahead of those trends and not find yourself in the middle of them, you're going to put yourself in a really good spot. And that pick specifically, like being closer to the wheel,
Mhm.
and having the opportunity to have two picks, really lets you set the tone of the draft as it goes back up.
For sure.
Because it's going to take a while for your pick to come back around. Like there's going to
Yeah.
be 20 picks once you do your two.
Mhm.
So really, honestly, with the once I do my pick and I'm towards the wheel, I don't even really like. Not that I'm not paying attention to who people are picking, but I'm not paying attention to who I'm picking
Mhm.
until it's back around. Like once it's back around, then I make my strategy. Because
See,
best available is always a good way to sort of look at it.
yeah,
But best available a lot of the times doesn't work out schedule wise with
it
your
doesn't.
team.
It
Like
doesn't.
bye weeks, these are all things you got to consider when you're picking who your backups are and who your second RB or wide receiver is. You
Mhm.
don't want to double up on those weeks because then literally you're just saying week 10 I'm gonna lose, and you don't
Yeah.
want to put
Yeah.
yourself in that spot.
See, and that's the one thing for me. Like when I do make my pick, and I know there's a gap between my next pick, um, I'm already kind of like prioritizing who I'm going to get, position, and how many at those positions that I will realistically be able to get with my pick. And that's my thing. But again, one of the biggest things you should look at is like which position is the deepest, because that'll allow you to also know what moves to make or what moves to not make, right? Because then like again, like QB, if you QB is kind of deep, but if you're talking about like the bigger names, like of course you can wait till about like round 4 or 5 before, depending on your position at that point, who you're going to get.
Mhm.
So that is still deep enough that you can get someone that's quality, maybe just not like a big name. Like it may not be Tom Brady, it may not be Aaron Rodgers, but you could still get like a Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert. Like those two guys could still be available before those guys before, I mean, even when those guys are taken off the board.
Yeah, and
So
I just want to caution you, Matt, because that is such sound advice, Derek. But it doesn't even apply to you. Like I know that sounds
yeah,
crazy,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
that makes sense for leagues where you only have one QB and then you
yeah.
have a backup. But
That's true.
it's not even
Yeah,
like you're playing two QBs. Like
yeah.
most of the time, just do the math. With
Mm-hmm,
a ten team league, three QBs, there's 32 teams.
mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to be in the position where your third QB is someone like Geno Smith, respectfully. Like you don't want to be in a position like that because in super flex leagues, like a big chunk of your points is coming from your QB. So that makes your
Mm,
QB spot much more valuable than it would be in a standard league like the one I drafted in yesterday, where it's one
mm-hmm.
QB starting every week.
Yeah.
So you want to get a good QB, don't get me wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
in a league like that, it's rare that um sort of the top 10 QBs are off the board by round 7. Like that's
Right.
super rare
Right.
because
Right. Right.
there's no reason to have sort of a backup QB that early. For your
Yeah.
league, that's completely not the case. Like
That's wild.
it's gonna be an arms race early. So try to
Yeah.
get out ahead of it
Yeah.
and consider the value that's left. Because like you said, there's gonna be blunders there. There's gonna be people that are prioritizing QBs. I would say, given that you have the wheel, no matter what, you have to pick one because by the time it comes
Mm-hmm.
back around, it's going to be even more scarce.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
considering that other people are going to be picking QBs, that leaves you open to having a good RB or a good wide receiver. I
Mm-hmm.
personally, what sort of as a rule of thumb, I always say go with RBs first because generally receiver is a much deeper position
Yeah.
than RB. And if you get a quality starter, even if they're not, um, for example, Brees Hall, he's sharing a lot of touches, but he's a quality starter. To
Mm-hmm.
have that as my third option
Mm-hmm.
versus that being my second option, even like that is a huge difference.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just trying to identify, like you said, Derek, sorry to steal your thunder, but just taking into account which position has the most depth currently in the draft and which matters the most.
Yeah.
In your league, the fact that you have like two QBs and a super flex is insane, bro. Like I never even heard of that.
I've
So
never
that
played one
sounds
like
dope.
that.
That sounds dope.
I've always played standards, so I've never played one like that. That's so intriguing.
For sure.
Yeah,
Like I've done two QB leagues and there's like no point of getting a backup. Like because
Yeah.
you have your two QBs and you're trying to get as much value as you can out of all the other ones. The fact that you're forced into getting a backup, because with the Superflex, you don't have to play a third QB. But
Mhm.
if you're facing someone that has three quality QBs, like you really put yourself in a bad position
So what
because that's
happens?
60 points off rip
Right.
generally, right?
What happens if you're playing a two QB league and uh you have both guys on same bye week?
You tapped out that week. That's it.
That
Because you're
I
done. You
did.
could pick
Oof.
up people. Like
Yeah.
I know, especially with the injury waivers, I know a lot of people give
Mhm.
injury reserve spots, which is really good. I
Yeah.
would say take
You have
advantage of
to.
those, Matt, whenever
Yeah.
you get a chance, because it allows you to keep a deeper roster than you generally would for the exact same value. Like you're not losing your player, but you get to add on more. So I would say in leagues like that where QBs are such a valued commodity. People like why am I forgetting his name? Jacoby Brissett become much more valuable
Yes. Yeah.
because generally nobody's going to draft him. Nobody in a standard league, nobody's drafting Jacoby Brissett.
I see
But in a
he
league
might
like
be interesting this
yours,
year though.
for sure, because he's
Yeah.
getting that he's forced into playing 11 games. Like
Yeah.
he's starting. He's got some good receivers around him. Am I saying go out there and get him? No, but I'm
Yeah.
saying him as
Yeah.
a player is much more valuable in a league like yours than it would in the league that I drafted yesterday
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's no way you get to that end of the depth chart in QB.
Yeah.
But in your league, 100% that's going to happen. So I would say first round, just anticipate that you're going to get a good QB no matter what. Like you're at least going to get a top five QB. But no matter what, from there, it's about picking the best value you guys think about whoever is left at RB or wide receiver. And generally, like for example, if Justin Jefferson's still there and there's good RBs, I would get Justin Jefferson personally
Yeah.
because I feel
Yeah.
like he might lead the league in yards this year. But at the same time, if there is someone like a Najee Harris still left on the board, like I would 100% go for that because in their offense they're going to be relying on him a lot. A, B, I think both Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, right? That's his name.
Yeah. Yeah.
They both have been sort of giving him a lot of receptions in preseason too. So you're
Yeah.
seeing that trend.
yeah,
It's a PPR league for you, so it's always better. That's why Austin Eckler is ranked so high too. Like he's
Mhm.
someone that gets
Mhm.
involved in the passing game as well. So those are all things to consider as far as value. But make sure you get that QB early because it's going to be crazy. The fire sale on QBs are going to be wild.
Yeah.
yeah. Now, I apologize for my ignorance here. So,
Oh.
if one of your players goes on a bye week, right? Are
Mhm.
you allowed to set one of your bench players in his spot just for the week? Is that how it
Yes,
works?
Mhm.
but
Okay.
you can't sub people though. So you need to have a deep enough bench to afford that. So
Mhm.
you're gonna like you don't want to put yourself in a position in a league like yours where you only are holding two QBs. Because once one of them go on a bye week, now you're potentially facing another team that has three QBs with one QB,
Yeah.
and like that's the
Hmm.
worst position to put yourself in. So really pay attention to those bye weeks, especially with the different positions. It doesn't matter as much, for example, if you're one of your QBs and one of your wide receivers have the same bye week, but just you have to keep that in mind for the rest of your sort of positional depth because you
Sure.
don't want to put yourself in a position where it's like, oh, week 7 looks terrible for me because
Yeah.
I'm losing out on my best receiver and my best quarterback.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, too, though, you put yourself in a tough spot because there are times where you're looking at the board and it's like, yeah, I don't want to have two people that have the same bye week, but Najee Harris is much better
Right
than my
there.
second best option, so I
Yeah.
might as well get him.
Yeah.
So there's always little things like that to consider that could change your decision. But I would say the value is king.
But
Always just
see,
try to consider what's the best value.
that happened to me last year. I believe I had Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert was my backup QB, of course. Um, but I had them. I think they both had the same bye week. So what I ended up having to do, like throughout before the bye week happened, I think it was round 7 or 8, monitor it and make sure I could flip one of those guys
before then.
before the before the bye week because I knew I could get value. It's just that they're both there. Why am I gonna miss out on getting a quality backup?
Right.
That's with any
Yeah.
position though. Like make sure if you have that bye week that is the same, it is a good idea to still pick up the best available player. But if you have the ability to trade and flip him for two really good players that fill gaps in at different positions, it's still that's still strategy to utilize as well.
Yeah. Like yesterday's draft, a great example of that. I didn't pick a receiver until round 5, but I got 5 receivers in the next 10 rounds. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you gotta be aware
Yeah,
of what you need and when
yeah,
you need it, for
yeah,
so to speak.
yeah.
And setting yourself up early to say, I got a QB and I got an RB already, like you're in a safe position.
Yeah.
If you end up with a wide receiver first, the upside is really good. Like, don't get me wrong, they're gonna ball out if you're
Mhm.
getting them with that kind of pick. But at the same time, you're putting yourself in a position now at running back where you already know that this is the scarcest position in the league.
Yeah.
So if you're falling behind on the RB arms race, immediately I would say if you end up going QB and wide receiver first round, you should try to double up next time on RBs because
Mhm.
by the time it comes around for your 6th pick, you're going to be drafting long shots and hoping that they end up in a productive position.
Right.
So it your strategy really does change after that first round because you're at the wheel. Like it's a really good position to be in. I argue that
Yeah.
it's the best position in draft. It's better than the first pick because all it
Yeah.
takes is injury to mess up your whole draft if you get the
Mhm.
first pick.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
with that 10th pick, or 12th, whatever ends up may being for the wheel, it literally puts you in a position to dictate your own draft. You
Yeah.
get to decide what position you're putting yourself in.
Mhm.
But once it comes back around, you need to address that. Because if you
Yeah.
don't, and then you're like, let me get 2 more receivers, then you're going to be starting people that are probably backups. So,
Yeah. Most definitely.
well, do you have any other questions? I feel like we just bombarded you for the last 30
No,
minutes.
I kind of you kind of just been taking in all this information.
That's awesome.
Um, damn. Yeah, this is about to be
this is
an
realer than you
interesting.
thought, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
an interesting day.
Yeah.
No, but I appreciate it though because I wasn't expecting this to be an easy road, right? I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, this is about to be a session full of rage,
Yeah.
stress, temporary happiness. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking
For
forward
sure.
to it.
Yeah.
And the
It's
best
always
part
fun.
too is if it doesn't work out, you just blame your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. I was experienced. I never watched football before. You know what I mean? I,
Legit, legit.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So now let's move on because we've got a lot to cover this week. I'm not gonna lie. We left you guys hanging on the NFC South and the NFC West last week. So we're gonna finish up our previews, just giving you guys who we think is gonna win the division, of course, and what everyone's records are gonna be looking like when it comes the end of the season. So let's start things off in the NFC South with the Atlanta Falcons. This is an interesting team to follow. I'm not gonna lie. If you ask me, this is the all Madden team right here because they aren't in a position to be a great team, but offensively, I think they're in a really good position, and that side of the rebuild is much more advanced than the defensive side of it. But some notable acquisitions, obviously getting Marcus Mariota to be their starter in the meantime, while their rookie QB is getting as many reps as possible. Cordarrelle Patterson re-signed, which is great news for them. And as far as other notables, I'm trying to find Jake Matthews getting that offensive line shored up is a great addition to the team, as well as Casey Hayward, a good corner to come and fill some of those holes that they had last year. Obviously, re-signed their kicker, who I would argue is one of the best in the league, in Young Ho Koo. So a lot of good moves, putting themselves in a position to be a little bit better than last year. They do have some really standout subtractions as well. with Matt Ryan obviously being traded to the Colts, Mike Davis going to the Ravens, Russell Gage going to the Buccaneers, Calvin Ridley is suspended, so that's a big blow for them. Hayden Hurst going to the Bengals, which I think he's a sleeper tight end too.
He is. He is.
And what else? These last sort of defensive moves, losing two of their corners to the Texans and their safety, Deron Harmon, to the Raiders. So there is a lot of turnover, especially on the defensive side of the ball for the Falcons. But I think they're going to be a fun team to watch this year, man. The story of Cordarrelle Patterson last year was the main sort of newsworthy story when it came to them. But I feel like their offense with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts, and eventually, if the rookie QB ends up starting, I think they're building towards something really exciting. Fortunately, though, I don't think that does much for them this year. So they didn't do as bad as many people thought last year, but I'm gonna put them at 6-11.
What was the record last year? I'm trying to find. Oh, hold up. 7-10 last year. Um, yeah, 6. I think 6 is probably the max it can get.
Sure.
This is a crazy schedule. Like they started off against the Saints in week 1.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's not gonna be it.
I had them. Yeah, I do 6-11. I can't say I have enough confidence in their defense to really support them. I think Kyle Pitts and Drake London are really going to mask a lot of holes that offense does have because their O line, at least to my understanding, didn't receive a significant upgrade. I can of course double check to see if they drafted any guards, etc. But even then, assuming they did put them in immediately as starters, I don't see a reality where with the schedule they can develop into the top players in their respective positions. But defensively, I mean that front seven is abysmal. It's awful. I mean, like no disrespect, but it's just their inability to get to the quarterback, not coming through with sacks, and really your best pieces on defense are your two corners, and AJ Durrell and oh my goodness, I forget his other name. Was it Casey Hayward, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep.
You know, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I say to come away with some divisional wins, maybe one against the Panthers, possibly one against the Saints if they're lucky enough, because those games usually go one way or the other. But
yeah,
it's a tough road ahead of them. I mean, yeah. Good luck.
Good luck. What's your final prediction numbers wise for their win total?
I do 6-11.
6-11.
I do 6-11.
Yeah, we all got them taking a little step back this season. But it makes sense. I think everyone in their division, Bucks sort of stood the same, but everyone else in their division really took a step forward, which obviously forces some regression there.
They might not get 6, bro. This schedule is crazy. They got Saints, Rams, Seahawks, Browns, Buccaneers, Niners, Bengals, Panthers, Chargers, Panthers, Bears, Commanders, Steelers, bye week, Saints, Ravens, Cardinals, Buccaneers. They might win 4. They put me at 4.
Yeah, that's 4. Why
that's a hard schedule.
Man, they were competitive last year.
They were
not that hard of a schedule, but
yeah. But you got
keep in mind.
You got Marcus Mariota as your quarterback, right? Not saying like he's trash, but that is a step back from Matt Ryan.
Really though? Is it really? Did we see Matt Ryan last season? Like Matt Ryan was playing terribly, bro.
Right. But in fairness, he was really operating behind one of the worst offensive lines in the league.
That's my point. Matt Ryan's gonna ball out this year.
Yeah.
That's another sneaky pick as well. Just saying, fantasy wise, he actually went in the 15th round yesterday in mine. So consider that since it's a much deeper QB league for you.
Oh yeah.
4-13 is your final number, Derrick.
I was going 4. Yeah,
nice.
And that's like 2. I think that they might get the Panthers and Saints later in the season on their second matchup. So.
And that's hoping that they can do that. Yes.
They don't have a bye week until week 14.
Yep. Those are always tough.
That's tough, man. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, Let's go to their competition, man. Next up, Carolina Panthers. Make some big acquisitions. Obviously, getting Baker Mayfield in that trade. Um, re-signing DJ Moore is big. Just shoring up what they already had there. Um, Trying to see what other notable moves they had. Re-signing Dante Jackson. Um, Xavier Woods is a good move. Picking up that safety, and that's about it as far as the positives. There is some negatives, but this is one of the shorter lists, honestly. Obviously, losing Cam Newton, he's still unsigned. Amir Abdullah went to the Raiders. Morgan Fox to the Chargers. Daquan Jones went to the Bills, which I think is probably the more significant one. Jermaine Carter Jr. went to the Chiefs, and then Hassan Reddick going to the Eagles, which is also very big, and Stephon Gilmore going to the Colts. So lost some of what they had on defense. I'm a fan of their front seven, though. I
Yeah.
think that even with what they lost, they have a lot of young talent, which is going to make them better. I like this team, man. I think if this is a hot take, but I think if Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy, like I think this team, they're not going to be on a crazy run to the playoffs or anything like that. But I think they could put themselves in a position where they're really in a solid position to get a wild card spot. So I'm finding a hard time picking the exact number right here, but I think I'm gonna go 9-8 for the Panthers.
That's what I was thinking. They're not because McCaffrey is definitely going to. I believe he'll be there a lot more than he was last year. They're not doing. They're not winning 5 games.
Yeah.
He was like we talked about this last year. McCaffrey being there and not being there was the biggest difference on their offense last year. And that's with Sam Darnold at QB, that's with Cam Newton at QB. It did not matter who was back there. You needed McCaffrey there because he's a great blocker. So he looks great as always at the beginning of every preseason, but I'm gonna go 9-2. There's no way they I don't think they win less than that.
I got you. And the reason why I'm flipping out right now,
go ahead.
Let's say it. Last season, you and I made a very nice bet. The bet involved one Baker Mayfield. Because we were talking about whether or not, yes, we were talking about whether or not Baker Mayfield is a formidable quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And you are an avid, why am I blanking on his name now? I got too excited. I'm blanking
Cam
on his
Newton
name. No, it wasn't Cam. Cap. So we were talking about Kaepernick and the chances that he ends up on a roster this season. Obviously, he ended up in talks and visiting a couple different organizations, trying out for them. But the bet was that before it's all said and done, he's like, damn, that Baker Mayfield will play in a playoff game before Kaepernick gets signed to an NFL team. And in the moment, that sounded like such an easy bet for you to make because obviously they were in a position. It seemed like he was going to get signed by someone to be a backup QB. But now, hey, you just admitted that I'm in a good spot for Baker Mayfield to make the playoffs this year, and we're going to have some Cowboy merch somewhere back there if this all works out.
that depends on McCaffrey.
Yeah, it does entirely.
Again, honestly, I think it's possible they can get to the playoffs for sure. But if McCaffrey's not there, you're gonna pretty much have like a repeat of last year where it was like there's so much hope for this team, and then they fall short of that expectation.
The blocking is gonna be hard, but people were really dismissing the fact that Baker Mayfield has been playing hurt the last 2 seasons.
He has been.
And I think there's room for improvement there.
He has been playing hurt the last 2 seasons, but you're not going to sit here and tell me healthy Cam with healthy McCaffrey would not have the same result or better than what Baker Mayfield's going to have this year.
I disagree.
I disagree. I'll say this much though.
It's a new system.
All right, maybe this is a hot take. Cam Newton was never elite.
That's Cam Newton it's real hot.
Whoa! Never.
I watched this man play back in 2020, and I watched his highlights, and there's nothing about his QB play that is remotely impressive in today's NFL. Back in 2015, his MVP year, you can make a strong argument that yeah, he was dominating on the field, but he's not that fast. His accuracy is all over the place, and to be frank, he isn't that best of a decision. He's not that good of a decision maker on the field. He's never been
Hold on,
elite
hold on, hold on,
at
hold on, hold on,
all.
hold on. So never been elite,
He's never been
but
elite
he is the MVP of that season.
because of the QB play being much different back then.
Well, that's a different.
That's the point I'm
different.
trying
That's
to make.
different. But
Yeah,
he's never been elite though.
he's never been elite.
I'm gonna say this real quick before you go, Derek. I'm just gonna say this. This is one of my favorite arguments in combat sports, which is athleticism is cheating. Like he's not as good as he theoretically should be at the quarterback position, but his athleticism gave him a platform to be elite. That's the argument that I think Matt is making. Please, Derek, go right ahead.
Yes.
Okay, I don't care if that's the case. He's still the QB that was elite at one point. Not saying that he's elite now. It doesn't matter if the athleticism is the reason why you're saying that, right? If he was athletic QB that did a decent job throwing the ball, but he just commanded the field in a way that made defenses play. You got to strategize for this guy. That's an elite player. He is an elite player. It's just that he's not. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he. I'm sorry. Hold up. He was a pretty good. He was a pretty good passer. Like I don't want to sit here and act like he was like we're not. This is not Blaine Gabbert we're talking about here. Okay, like
Okay, yeah, we're not gonna go that far, but
yeah, there's a reason that he was MVP that year. I don't remember his numbers from that season, but there's a reason he was MVP. There's a reason he got to the Super Bowl. Now, did he flop in the Super Bowl? Yes. But that season was special. That was a special season. We're not going to sit here and act like he was Carson Wentz. Don't do that.
wait, what do you mean? Like in terms of a Carson Wentz downgraded, or
No, in terms of the
what's
fact
the
that
comparison here?
Wentz had only one good like one elite season that you can point to, and then everything else was kind of just like it was a fall off
I
after that.
really, honestly, like I said, I really don't think he was a lead back in his MVP. I really think that was just based on his overall stats, both rushing and passing wise. I really like
He was still considered elite
maybe this
though.
is just me, but I generally am just not impressed with him as a quarterback. And you have to imagine too, back in 2015, he was behind one of the best defenses and one of the best running games who like knew how to utilize him. That was that. His offensive
Well, I
coordinator
mean,
knew how to scheme him.
you can
So
make the
yeah,
same
you can
case
go
for
ahead and
Lamar Jackson then.
what do you mean?
You can make the
Not
same
at
case for
all.
No,
yeah.
Ravens had
Hold on.
respectfully, Chris.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
sorry, go
In
ahead.
terms of saying like he has this to lean on, he has that to lean on, plus his athleticism and his throwing. I mean, like, I'm not saying they're the same player, but if you want to say like Chris last year, were you not freaking out about the Ravens after all those injuries?
100%. I was freaking out about the Ravens, but everything considered, I think he still played very, very well.
Yes, and I thought beforehand we were sitting here talking about it. Like a lot of people more so said that like we're making a case of Lamar not being this QB because of whatever weapon it was that he had or did not have, but he still did. He exceeded what those limits were. I think Cam exceeded what those limits were too. But I'm just saying, like I
Based on career numbers, you can 100% make the argument that Cam Newton is actually a better passer than Lamar Jackson is.
you
Like that is
could,
a legitimate argument. Just to give some of the 2015 stats, I think this is obviously the highlight of his career. Don't get me wrong. He
yeah.
actually threw for more yards in his rookie season than
Hmm.
he did in his MVP season.
Hmm.
But it was the second most total yards for him. So let me just run down these stats real quick, and
Yeah.
then we'll move on because I don't know how the fuck we ended up here.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
he had a 60% completion percentage. He threw for 3,837 yards with 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That's a really good rate.
That's
Just want to
elite.
say that. He also he does they don't even have his running stats here, but his QBR for the season was 61.4. And that was the highest, second highest of his career actually. So the numbers are there. I would argue because of his decline in the last, I would say 7 or so years. This argument to me isn't even a crazy one. Like I kind of agreed with you initially before looking at the numbers, Matt. I think his body of work though, and having I think over 7 seasons I counted with more than 3,500 yards, that's a big marker to mention. So I ultimately my conclusion is that he was elite, but I can entirely see why you came to that conclusion based off of the way he's played in the past couple of years because he has come nowhere near to peak Cam in the last couple
Oh,
of years.
well, if
But
the
as far
argument is
as
that he's no longer elite,
Oh yeah, no. My
I'm with
argument is that
that.
he was never
never
elite.
elite,
Yeah,
I know,
his
Never.
is
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. So
never.
that was very specific.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, he was
I disagree with
elite.
that too. But
What?
Ver-
that he was never elite. But my main point is I still 100% disagree with the fact that Baker Mayfield today is a worse fit than Cam in that
I'm
offense.
not saying it's a worse fit, but I'm just saying there's no way that put it like this: healthy Cam with what Baker is going to have this year, I think Cam would have because he has. You have to remember he's also been in that offense more than Baker, right? So if Cam today was in that offense, I think he has a better shot of taking him further than Baker does this year.
I disagree with that entirely.
I have to disagree.
He's familiar
He
with the playbook,
Listen,
right? That's a different language.
Cam Newton's entire just being familiar with the playbook, I understand that, but that's not in for professional football players, that's not as big as a hurdle as it should be. That's not as big as a marker. Now, let me just say this real quick. In 4 seasons in the NFL, um, Baker Mayfield has averaged a 60% completion rating. Averaged.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cam Newton's highest was 59 in a
Right,
single season.
right.
So, as far as accuracy, as far as throwing the ball and being that quarterback, when you consider the dual threat, yes, there's more things to offer there. But as far as who is my QB in today's NFL, regardless of healthy Cam and what that means, what we have come to expect from Cam Newton, I would say 100% Baker Mayfield is the better pick and should be the better pick. But
I mean, he's
that's just
there.
me.
He is there. I'm just saying, like, I think I've said this multiple times. I think Cam got a unfair deal because of situational things. I don't think what we saw the last 2 years is like the best we can get of Cam today.
That's fair. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. I, I don't know. I can't. I feel like obviously I don't want to stay on this topic any longer because we want to move on to the next team. But
We give
you
you the
know,
last word.
yeah, yeah. That this could be a conversation for another day. I'll leave it like that.
I like it though. Honestly, I like it. And when we started, I was agreeing with you, but yeah, I think it's a little bit more recency bias. Shout out to the dog in the
Yes.
back holding it down,
Yeah,
keeping
yeah.
us on track,
Yeah,
keeping us on track.
yeah.
So yes, what is Matt? Before we move on from the Panthers, because we have spent entirely too long talking about
We have.
them.
Yes.
What is your final prediction for their record this season?
Um, I say their upside is like 7-10. I really don't feel confident in Matt Rule as a head coach. He should be on the hot seat soon. He should have been on the hot seat last season. I mean, you start off 3-0 and you only win 2 games for the rest of the season, if I'm not mistaken. But defense, I really like their defense though. I think J.C. Horn can very easily emerge as one of the best cornerbacks in the league now that he's coming off a broken foot for last season. I know they lost Stephon Gilmore, but a lot of nice pieces offensively, defensively that can help them out.
I agree, and Stefan was someone that they picked up midseason because of that. So,
Mhm.
really good points there. And honestly, I think they're on the fringe of the playoffs. So, looking forward to seeing how that pans out. But next up, the New Orleans Saints. Oh man, re-signed Jameis, signed Andy Dalton, the Red Mamba. Um, picked up Jarvis Landry, and then obviously the biggest one, getting Tyron Matthew, Marcus May, who is out here pistol whipping fools. He's in some legal troubles. Hopefully everything is okay with that situation. and whoever the fuck he is with, because that's the most important thing. Not him being a dumbass. And they have some notable losses. Obviously, Blake Bortles being one of them. Trevor Simeon going to the Bears. Ty Montgomery to the Patriots. Kenny Stills, who is still not signed anywhere, but notable name.
Yeah,
Not a notable production player, but
yeah.
Garrett Griffin for the Lions, Teron Armstead to the Dolphins, Quan Alexander to the Jets, and then obviously Malcolm Jenkins retiring and losing Marcus Williams to the Ravens. So that was the biggest notable sort of a person that they lost out on. I'm really a fan of this team, man. I think we talked about this a lot last season, Derek, that we like LASIK Jameis. He looked
Yes.
good out there. He was much more poised than he was in his time with the Buccaneers. And regardless of whether or not he has suspect decision making, I think it's never been a question that that dude could throw the ball. Like he
Yes.
can throw the
Yes.
ball.
Yes. Yes.
Looking forward to seeing what he can do with some more time in this offense, being the guy. And I think they've put themselves in a good position too with drafting Chris Olave and getting Michael Thomas back. Obviously, Alvin Kamara always a steady Eddie on that front too. So
Mm-hmm.
I think their offense is going to be really potent this year, and that adds to what has always been a very strong defense. Obviously, they lost some pieces, and there's some new people coming in, so it may take a little bit to gel. But I'm a really fan of a fan of what they have going on. I think they're not going to be, spoiler alert, the one that wins this division. But I think they're in the running and they're going to be a really good team. So this one is honestly one of the tougher ones. I'm gonna lock in 10-7.
Yeah, I hate to continue to piggyback off your picks, but I'm going 10 as well. I think, to be completely honest, I think they're going to have to rely on their offense a little more this year than their defense. Because I mean, that position took a big hit this offseason.
Yeah,
That's
and
I'm a
Tyron,
big fan of the Honey Badger, but I agree.
it took a
yeah,
hit though.
and Tyron, yeah, Tyron is a bit overrated in some respects too. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I
How
mean,
so? You can't just how so, bro?
I mean, I had to look more at his highlights, obviously, but I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of what I've seen, like whenever he makes a mistake in which he's just not covering people properly, or there's a miscommunication on what their defensive scheme's supposed to be, he immediately points at his teammates for not doing his job.
Mhm.
He tends to do a lot of finger pointing. So I'm not saying he doesn't have any skills whatsoever, and maybe that's more of the kind of person he is rather than his actual playmaking ability. So maybe that again, probably a bit of bias creeped in there, but I just don't think he can single handedly hold down the fort in that safety position. Because
Yeah.
like you both said, it took a huge hit in that secondary, and he lost Gardner Johnson to the Eagles too, and he was one of the best nickelbacks. Derrick, thank the Saints for that for that
Oh, I
beautiful.
do. Definitely
Um,
do.
yeah, so I probably go. I think their upside is I'll probably go 11-6. I don't mean to piggyback off of your picks, but
Mhm.
even say 10-7. I think the offense is going to have to take a huge progression forward, which it will. I mean, they no longer have Ian Book or Trevor Simeon as their quarterbacks anymore. So, James is back. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Scary thing about this team though is they're one Jameis injury away from being a 6-8, 6-11 team. So it's a
Yeah.
scary proposition. But the upside is
Which,
there for sure on both
if
sides of the
he
ball.
if he does get injured, Cam Newton is a very viable option, bro.
I think you should sign with the Raiders.
I like-
Separate. But anyways.
I'm sorry. I think Cam makes a lot of sense down there if that were to happen.
I had to mute myself for the laughing just because I love you to death, Derek. It's just every time we're running down these teams, you're like, I don't know, this might be the one for Cam or Cap. I don't
I've
know.
given
It
up on
might be the
Cap.
one.
I've given up on Cap.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, I've
okay.
given up on Cap.
Damn.
But Cam,
Reminding you about the bet really soured it, huh?
no, 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 no. I actually forgot about the bet. It's that he didn't get any like really like offers this offseason. If he did do tryouts, um, if no one signed him at this point, it's just not happening. It's
Yeah,
not happening. So
for sure. But all right, we move on to the final team in this division, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This list is extremely long. I'm just gonna truncate it by saying they got Tom Brady back, which is fucking ridiculous at this point. Let's be real. Let's be real. Um, got Giovanni Bernard, re-signed Leonard Fournette, signed Russell Gage, re-signed, well, franchise tagged Godwin, signed Julio Jones, signed Kyle Rudolph, which I didn't even realize until
yeah, they
just
did.
now. It's a good,
Yeah,
it's a sneaky good move. Acquired Shaq Mason, which is good considering a lot of what they lost is on the offensive line. Um, Aaron Stinney re-signed, which is good. Ryan Jensen re-signed, which is good. Um, so a lot of good moves to try to shore up what they lost, but what they lost is significant. Ronald Jones going over to the Chiefs, OJ Howard going to the Bills, Alex Kappa to the Bengals, and then another one of their guards retired. Obviously, JPP still not on a different team yet, or in Dominican Sue, but it's notable. Richard Sherman. These are all sort of vets that are on their way out, so it makes sense. But also lost Jordan Whitehead to the Jets as well as Bradley Pinion to the Falcons. So a lot of turnover, but I mean, and also Gronk retiring too. So a lot of
mm-hmm.
turnover, but I would say you got Tom Brady. This is a well-oiled machine at this point between all the supplements and what they already have. This should
Yeah,
be a really high-powered offense, and I don't really think they lose a beat just with all the receivers that they added. You plug and play people wherever you can. I'm interested to see how their defense looks. I think that's the biggest question mark coming into this season. But at the same time, I think they're known for being adept at plugging guys in those spots and finding talent. So I'm really intrigued by this team. It's hard to give a Tom Brady led team, a record with less than 12 wins. So I'm
mm-hmm.
gonna say 12-5.
I will say, um, another question mark is their center position. I think they've
Yep.
uh two of them have already gone down. And I don't know. If I'm not mistaken, I think that might be a season-ending injuries to both. Um, so that's a question to me: is their line, their offensive line in general, how that's going to hold up. Um, I want to say 12, but I think I might say 11.
Got you.
I
I
might say
almost walked
11.
it back too. Good,
Oh,
good, good vibes. Good
yeah,
vibes. What about you, Matt?
yeah.
Yeah, I probably do 12-5. It's just those offensive line hits are very concerning, especially when you have a 45-year-old man
Mm-hmm.
still playing football.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
and
Julio Jones out there too.
yeah, and Julio Jones. But
Yeah.
At least Russell Gage is in the mix now too. I think you'll have
Mm-hmm.
a breakout season if they utilize him correctly. But I'll say 12-5. The refs are on Brady's side anyway, so they'll probably get away with 3 free wins.
For sure.
You
Get away
know,
with murder,
Yeah.
as they always
yeah.
do.
At this point.
Oh man, I just want to say real quick before we move on, if there's one player in the recent NFL history that you can get on that Tom Brady supplement program, who would it be to transform their career and keep them as young as they were 10 years ago? On the Tom Brady supplements, who would that player be for you?
Do they
Jason
have to be an
Peters.
active player?
Active or recently active that's getting older, on a decline, that needs a little boost. You know what I mean? That kind of player.
Jason Peters.
That's a good one. That's a real good one.
Yeah,
I
because
like that.
his decline started like 5 6 years ago.
Hmm. And it's still good. He's still good, but yeah, the
Good.
decline. The decline.
No, he's not. He's 40
He's
years old.
just
That dude, he should be retired. I don't know. He still thinks he can play. He thinks he's Tom
the
Brady.
knowledge. It's the
I
knowledge.
don't care about the knowledge.
The
He thinks he's
knowledge.
Tom Brady at the left tackle. That's the problem. And Dallas is signing him, which I don't understand why. They're officially in hell. Like I think if you have Jason Peters to your left, you know what's actually better than Jason Peters right now? Nobody. Because at least you can
You
see
believe
somebody coming toward you. At least he's not blocking the view. Like
It's hilarious,
he
dude.
can't. His lateral movement is horrible. So yeah,
Okay.
Jason Peters, hand down.
I did not expect the offensive lineman to be the answer to that question, but I love it. Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry.
Yeah, probably AP or Julio, because
That's true.
I love to see him at their prime again. I didn't really get into football until this past season, anyways.
Mhm.
So it kind of sucks that I wasn't there,
Yeah.
like watching them, break off these crazy runs, or Julio coming down with these
Mhm.
insane catches. It's kind of like my biggest regret
Yeah.
not
For
watching
sure.
football until recently.
For me, this guy is not recent, but him leaving the league has always been sad for me. So to see him make a comeback out of nowhere would be dope. Calvin Johnson. I think he's one of my favorite
Ooh.
players to watch back in the day. I think that's a real good shout there. But anyway, we're gonna take a quick break, get some time to regather our thoughts, and then we're gonna finish things off in the NFC West, and then go into our Week 1 predictions for this season. So really looking forward to it. We'll be right back.